We're going to start with my antibacterial spray. My surface cleaner, I use Dettol. You can use any type of antibacterial surface spray. I always start with my spray. I'll finish the end of the session with spraying down my station and wiping it. And then once I'm about to set up for my next session, I'll spray it again so it's got an extra bit of cleaning spray on there. And the spray is also going to help my plastic cling film stick to my station. You can see I let this go flat, and I'll make sure that the cling film is flat the whole way across. And I won't just wrap the top, I'll also do this bit of extra plastic that comes off of the side, because a little bit of ink might spill over the side and we want to keep everything as clean as possible. So I'll cover the whole surface with my wrap. And then I use one of these bibs. You'll be able to find these on a tattoo supply website. It might be called like a dental bib or a lap cloth, something like that. And this is basically going to give an extra layer of protection. I think it makes the whole process look and feel a little bit cleaner and more hygienic. I start with this one side. I don't like it to be all creased and bubbled. I like it to be as flat as possible, just because it's more satisfying and easier to work on top of. So I'll pull both of these corners and tighten everything, and then put my tape on to secure it. Same again, pull the corners, pull the middle, tape. Then I have my green soap bottle. Anything that is going to be used throughout the tattoo process and touched throughout the tattoo process should absolutely be wrapped up like so. The end of the nozzle isn't wrapped up. I've got no reason to touch this throughout the tattoo process, and this never touches the skin, it never touches dirty tissue. Because this is exposed, this doesn't touch anything dirty throughout the process. I can think about getting my needles out now if I want to. I definitely don't open my needles now. I wait for my client to come in so that they can see that I'm working with fresh needles that are being opened just for them, in front of them. If you've got your stencil stuff, your ink, my water that I'm going to use to dilute my black into grey. Notice that I'm not wrapping any of this up because I'm going to set up my station. Once my station is set up and I'm about to start tattooing, all of these things are going to come off of my station because they're not used throughout the process. If they were to stay on my station, then ink might splatter on them, ink with blood in it, and all of that is going to cross-contaminate all of these products and mean that the next person that I use them on could very well be contaminated with the blood and the ink that has gone on these. And the same with our paper towels or kitchen roll, whatever you call it. I'm only going to put on what I need. If I finish the tattoo and there's a few pieces left over, then this has to get thrown away with our setup. I have my ink caps, my razor. And then when it comes to my machine, you can see that I'm using the Dragon Hawk machine. I'm using a rotary tattoo machine. And to clean this, to stay hygienic with this, I use my Dragon Hawk Mast UV sterilizer. And the beauty of this sterilizer, even though it might not be as efficient as what a proper autoclave was to sterilize your products, this is still acceptable by your local health and safety authorities. Even though these aren't the best, these still do the job of sterilizing your machine. Because it's light and it isn't heat, the light has to get to all of the different parts of the machine that you want to be sterilized. So because the lights are in here, I like to put my machine in and I'll run it through. It lasts about 3 minutes, and then I will turn the machine, and I'll even turn this way so that the light can go inside here. Before I put it in here, I'll get one of these cloths, I'll get my green soap, and I'll get some paper towels, and I'll just make sure that there's no ink, no ink residue over the top of my grip and my machine. And then I can run it through my sterilizer twice or even 3 times if you want to be really safe. And then that's it. Once it's sterilized, I can put my machine back together with my battery pack, and all I need to do is wrap that up and it's ready to go. And so to wrap up your rotary style machine, we are going to need some scissors, and we need a clip cord sleeve. I've got a roll of clip cord sleeves that look like this. I'm going to cut some of my clip cord off. You can see that it's longer than the grip and enough to wrap over. It's going to go on the grip, and I can take this down. I can take this down, leaving the top nice and flat for my cartridge to go through later on. And before I wrap my grip tape around it, I like to fold up this paper towel and wrap this around, just because it gives me an extra layer of comfort. And it also gives me the opportunity to take these ends of my clip cord sleeve, wrap those in nice and tight. Then I can get my grip tape. I like to pull this down so that it makes the clip cord sleeve nice and tight. And I like to wrap my machine just up to here, because this machine in particular, it gives me the option to change my stroke, and I can also change the depth or the hang of my needle by changing my grip. So you can see the grip twists there, and that will change the depth of my needle. And I can also change the stroke of my machine here. So I like to set my stroke at this point, because once I put my battery on, I'm going to take some of my barrier film and I cover up the remainder of this machine. You can see that the barrier film overlaps my grip tape to make sure that there's no part of the machine that's exposed. And all I have to do then is seal the top. And now I've got a fully sealed rotary tattoo machine that's ready to go. And then the last thing to do is get my lotion. I use this Hornet butter. You can use Hustle butter, Inkies. I wouldn't use A&D ointment, and I wouldn't use Vaseline. They're not really meant for open skin, so there are other products that are much better for open skin. I can use my lotion to stick down my ink caps. Let's say I've poured all of my inks. My ink can go on my table. I'm going to dilute my grey wash. Now my water can go on my table and away from my station. Let's say I want to put my stencil on the client. I'm finished with my stencil stuff. That can go off the table. And now let's say my stencil is on. I'm ready to tattoo my client. My barrier film doesn't need to be on there. And my tape and my grip tape need to go in my station too. I've got my razor. I can shave my client and the razor can stay there because that's disposable. And now that my stencil is on, my client's there, now I feel safe to open my needles and get my needles out onto my station. Now when it comes to hygiene throughout the tattoo, let's say we've got an iPad on our stand. I've seen people put iPads on their station. If it is on your station, it really needs to be wrapped up. The same as I've explained with our other products. The iPad has no reason to be on here. It is not a part of the tattoo process. It should be in a stand or exterior to the station. Even if it's on a stand, if you're going to use it to zoom in, if you're going to touch the iPad, it needs to be wrapped up with 1 or 2 layers of cling film on the top or some type of barrier film to keep it clean. And then let's say we're tattooing an arm. In order to keep our armrest nice and clean, same as the station, I give it a spray and the top of it should be wrapped up very well. I personally wrap down the sides as well and slightly underneath. This allows me to grab the armrest however I want throughout the tattoo process to make myself and my client more comfortable. And you can see that it also gives me a couple of layers of protection as well. And you can see that it gives me a few extra layers of protection. I can grab it from around the side and I know that I'm safe. And the only thing that we need to worry about now is the handles of the armrest. So I tend to adjust my armrest before the skin is broken. If you do need to adjust this armrest throughout, same as maybe your bed, we are either going to put barrier films. We're going to either put barrier film on the handles so that we can touch it with dirty hands, or we are just going to take off our gloves and readjust with clean hands and then put on some new gloves once we start working again. Once I have dirty gloves on, let's say I need a new needle, I want to open something in here. If I've got dirty gloves on, I should not be touching anything that is unwrapped. I definitely should not be touching my station, touching some needles. All of this is going to cross-contaminate your products in the worst way, and it's just an absolute no-no. Let's say I'm tattooing, the bottom of my needle accidentally hits my ink cap, and I'm thinking I need a new needle to make sure that my needle isn't hooked. I'm going to take off my gloves. I always pinch the wrist of my glove and slide that off. And you can either use your one clean hand to do what you need to do, but if I'm thinking, I need to rip that off, I need both hands, then both gloves are going to come off. I'm going to take this one off and I'm going to slide a finger up into the wrist of this one, and I can take that one off. Now I can think about ripping my needle off and putting my needle on my station and getting some new gloves. So let's say I'm finished tattooing now and I'm ready to break down my station. First things first, we have a clean hand and we have a dirty hand. Even though we have a clean and a dirty hand, I still like to put two gloves on. So what I will do with my dirty hand, I will take my needles and I will put them in my sharps bin and get rid of those safely. I then focus on my machine and I will use my left hand to take off the barrier film. Currently both hands are now dirty, so what I do is I take my glove off one hand. Now I have one dirty and one clean, and my clean hand can take the machine out and slide our grip tape off, and now I have my unwrapped machine in my clean hand. I'm going to take this down, I'm going to put it on my table, and once I've broken everything down, as I mentioned about cleaning my machine earlier, I'm going to go ahead and clean that machine. The end of my wash bottle is unwrapped, so I can touch that with my clean hand now that I'm finished tattooing. And with my dirty hand, I can begin to unwrap my wash bottle, and exactly the same as my machine, it goes on my clean table. And then from here, with my dirty hand, I can peel each corner of my station into the middle. Do this nice and carefully. We don't want any messes, and everything can get wrapped up into this little package and boom, straight in the bin. Same again, I can find the end of my wrap, and with my clean hand, not touching anything, I can unwrap this with my dirty hand. Clean hand, poke it through. Now to get ready for my next tattoo, whether it's later on today, tomorrow, or next week, I'm going to get my spray, give everything a nice spray down, and then with one more glove, I can give my station a nice wipe down. On the chance that you get any ink on your station anywhere, make sure that we're cleaning that off. And same as our armrest, we give that a nice wipe all the way around. If you're learning to tattoo, it's worth taking your BBP course, your bloodborne pathogen course. It's going to teach you about how to stop cross-contamination. It's going to teach you about the chain of contamination and the way that things get contaminated. The things like changing the gloves, wrapping things up so there's no cross-contamination. All of these things are there to break the chain of contamination and keep things as clean as possible. No matter where you are in the world, just Google bloodborne pathogen online course with certificate and you'll be able to find a course for you to take. It will teach you some extra things that I haven't taught you here today. And in order to get your license as a tattoo artist, you will need a certificate to your bloodborne pathogen course. Visit thebuzzacademy.com if you want to join my students in my online tattoo course.